Good morning. Hey, good morning. Another Friday. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us this early in the morning. And today I have the amazing Lelané, Adele, and Nici, women leading the profession at the Financial Planning Institute of Southern Africa. They're also the proud sponsors of the news segment here on the show. So really amazing to have the three of them with us today. And I am really looking forward to that discussion. We're going to cover a lot of ground and a lot of different topics, so it's going to be an interesting conversation. So please stay tuned for that. But before we can get into all of that, let me just quickly say good morning to those of you that are saying hi in the chat. And please, I encourage you to say hi. So first in this morning, Ben Kleinhans, goeiemôre Benna. Govendra, nice to see you as well. Good morning. Razan, I hope you're feeling better or starting to feel better, but welcome. Glad to see you here. And Kobus, good morning from Sun City. Ja, is alweer sulke tyd. Yes, like. So thank you very much for saying hi and for tuning in from there. And Albert Fritz, goeiemôre. Nice om jou te sien. Welcome. All right, so with that, let's start off with the news. And everything has moved around here in the studio, so you won't be able to see this, but like, there's a whole new layout, so now I've got to look for things this morning. But with that, let's go over to David Kopp. David Kopp is here this morning to deliver the news for us this morning.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Friday. So to kick off with the news, is there a change coming to the South African retirement landscape? So in a media statement issued by National Treasury on the 11th of August, National Treasury has announced that legislation to allow early access to retirement funds will be seen at the earliest in 2022. That is, unless you are a member of the government's employees pension fund, which this legislation will not cover. So while the COVID pandemic has spurred on the discussion about early access to retirement funds, it is in fact something that has been mulled over by National Treasury for quite some time now and was first announced in the medium-term budget statement in 2020, as well as in the budget speech for 2021. While the current measures will cover pension and provident funds, there is planned harmonization to retirement annuity funds. So design work and consultation is going on, and we should see further announcements on or before the medium-term budget statement in 2021. Now, this is obviously quite a complex issue for financial planners and advisors, because while we know and understand that retirement funds are there for one purpose, retirement, the question is, how do you have a conversation with a client who's not able to feed his family due to income losses now and say, look, don't worry, you're going to be okay in retirement. So maybe this is the time that the retirement landscape in South Africa is going to be reformed to make sure the retirement covers the journey to retirement and not only to retirement. So let's watch for developments. And we definitely believe that this is the time when clients and consumers are going to need that financial advice to make sure that they balance their living today and planning for tomorrow. Leading on from that story, and just another indication of where we are, the SASSA system, the South African Social Security system, actually crashed because they launched the online applications for the 350 Rand grant. And this time they had about 4.4 million applications instead of the 800,000 last year. So it does show how the situation has changed. Then with regards to contingent liability claims, the Financial Sector Conduct Authority continues to investigate policyholder complaints regarding the assessment and payment of contingency claims. The complaints that they are receiving, they say, are still concerning, but what they do find out, there are various issues and places where the claims are. So they are in discussion with the insurance industry. So some of the claims are waiting for documents from policyholders. So in that case, policyholders must get their documents in as soon as possible. Other offers have been made by the insurers and the policyholders have accepted. There are still some claims in litigation. Claims are pending status for an indemnity period with interim payments being made. And in some cases, policyholders are back on their feet and saying, well, we no longer need to pursue the claim, so they have abandoned it. Then in closing, don't call it pocket lint, call it NER. Okay, so at some point in time, for whatever reason, someone decided to give a name to the lint that collects in the bottom of your pockets. And that name is NUR. It is spelled G-N-U-R-R. Not too sure why the G is silent, but next time you put your hand in your pocket, you're not pulling out lint, you are pulling out NUR. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the show and your weekend.
Awesome. Thank you, David. I think it's, when you put your hand in your pocket and there's just that nerd, it's just nerd. But when there's something else in your pocket that you didn't expect, maybe then the G is not silent anymore. So, David, thank you so much. Have a fantastic weekend.
You too.
Cheers, man. Bye-bye. All right, so with that, let's listen to Norma in the personal development section. And today she talks about the P word. And it's definitely a good friend of mine sometimes. Well, it used to be often, now it's a little bit better, but procrastination. So let's hear what Norma has to say.
Good morning. My topic for today is procrastination, and I think it's a term that we are all very familiar with. It's really that thing that we do where we should be doing the important things, but then in that moment we decide we need to organize our cupboards or clean our fridge or clean out our garage. So really procrastination really is really that. So our brain really loves to do what is easy, comfortable, and what's pleasurable. So that's really our survival brain. And the survival brain's main function is really to keep us alive and safe. So it's really to avoid pain, seek pleasure, and be efficient. And that's exactly procrastination. Because when we are faced with challenges or doing difficult things, we want to get out of that feeling that difficult emotion and really want to get relief. So we get up and we distract ourselves by doing something else, which is more pleasurable in the moment. So procrastination is an action. So we, instead of identifying with I am a procrastinator, we can more accurately say that I'm in the habit of procrastination. So if we identify with being a procrastinator, then we really create more of what is in our past. So we create our future and we include in it procrastination. So when we find something hard is in front of us or something difficult, then we default to what we know, and that is exactly procrastination. So we might think it's a safe route, and we don't always know that what we're busy with is going to have a good outcome or is going to be successful. So we would rather procrastinate. So we can just notice if we procrastinate in our life, and maybe it's more in specific areas that maybe in other. So maybe decisions that we keep off, that we don't make straight away, or it can be if we're faced with something difficult or challenging or something hard, then we can notice that and become aware that we are procrastinating there. And then we might ask ourselves deeper questions just to get to the root of why we are procrastinating. So we also need to remember that we won't always feel like doing something, or we wouldn't always feel motivated to do something. So if we know in advance that that would come up for us, then we can plan for it and we can go ahead and do the hard things anyway. So it's always the hardest to go from 0 to 1. But once we sort of on our way, we have momentum, then it becomes easier. But we always also have to remember that momentum comes from taking action. We can't be standing still and thinking we're going to get momentum from that. So just a couple of things I want to highlight, which is quite common reasons why we procrastinate. And I've already touched on this, but instant gratification. So like I mentioned, instead of feeling those difficult emotions in right now, that I maybe feel doubt or I feel discouraged, I get up and I go and do something else. I distract myself. We don't always feel like doing the hard things, so we would rather relieve ourselves in the moment at the expense of our long-term goals. We also procrastinate because we might fear failure. So again, we make failure mean something, or we make it mean that it's something about us. So we want to avoid that at all costs. And then also perfectionism is also a good reason why we procrastinate, because instead of putting something out there, doing the work in the world, we would rather wait until it's perfect. So we also might be avoiding criticism, or we might avoid being wrong, or maybe avoid putting something out there that we think might not be good enough. And then planning is the last one, and I think this is maybe the most common one. I know it is for me, because if we have big goals, we don't actually break it down into smaller pieces, and we don't put a timeline to it. So we don't say, what is my goal, or what do I need to do this year? What do I need to do this month, this week, this day? And we don't put that daily tasks into our calendar. And if we don't put it in our calendar, we all know that it doesn't happen. Brendan Burchard is a high-performance coach, and he talks about procrastination and planning. And he says that 3 things are important. The first one is that we should see our goals to completion. So we need to see the end result, but we also need to see the steps in between. And although when we see our goals, we don't always know what step number 20 or 30 or 50 is going to be, but we can take a good guess to see the process and then see the end result. Another important thing he talks about is to visualize our goals, and then lastly, to share it with someone else, to share it with the world. Because once we've done that, it's not about the goal, or it is about the goal, but it adds to it that our name is maybe on the line, maybe our integrity and maybe relationships are on the line. So that's a good way of seeing planning and procrastination. So just to close off, that we are, procrastination is not who we are, it's just something that we do. And if we are in that moment where we don't want to take the action, we're procrastinating, then we can always go back to what are we thinking, and what is that thinking creating, how are we feeling, and that might be the reason why we're not taking action. So we need to value our results more than we value that procrastination in the moment and what it's going to give us. Thank you. That's all I have for you today.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Norma. That is some good food for thought again. We sort of, there was I don't know, I've spoken about Eric Creer on the show before as well. And back when SME Africa started, we went to a talk that's where I saw him for the first time. And he was talking about like procrastination. And he was talking also that there's sort of 6 types of procrastinators. And me and a friend of mine were sitting next to each other. It was like this act. So there's also different levels of procrastination, or different types of procrastinators out there. But thank you. It was very valuable and a good insight. I appreciate it. You must have a lovely weekend. We'll see you back next week.
Thank you, and goodbye to everyone.
Good stuff. Bye-bye. All right. So before we head on into the featured topic, or the featured guests for today, which is Lelané Bezuidenhout, Adele Whyte, and Nici Macdonald, I just quickly want to share 2 updates with you, or 3 rather, just so that you know. The first one is just a reminder that we are going to change, or we now sort of have already the approval and everything, where we're doing a name change from Circulus Online, which is the online CPD platform that we use, or the brand that we built for the online CPD that we offer rather. And that's all changing to Propulsion Learning. And so we are in the process. So there's some changes coming there. So everything will be under the Propulsion brand. I think I spoke about it last week or the week before as well. But then importantly, something that I do want to just quickly bring to your attention again is that we are doing a communication challenge, a 5-day communication challenge that starts on Monday. If you are part of PROpulsion Pro, it's absolutely free, and I want to encourage you to go and join on the platform. So if you go to the PROpulsion Pro platform, you can go and join it there. It's under programs. If you are not a PROpulsion Pro member, it is possible to participate. There is a fee involved, and you can go and register. Let me just quickly show you the link. So the link is just propulsion.co.za /comms. So you can go to that address and then sign up, make the payment, and then for the duration of that challenge, you will also have access to the platform, and but you are able to do that. And what the challenges are about is that, you know, a lot of times we attend CPD events, or we attend any kind of training or learning event, or whatever you want to call it, But at the end of the day, when it comes to the implementation, we fall flat because we get back into the everyday rut and everything that's going on at that point in time. So then we don't start using the things that we just learned and that we even made notes about and thought, oh, this was so amazing. So challenges they are designed to break down, first of all, the content. So it's usually over 5 days, 10 days, 14 days, 30 days, depending on what the topic is that we're running. But part of that is there's a little bit of theory every day and some practical things that you need to do. And there's very clear outcomes that we are driving through these challenges. So they are meant to hold your hand and help you to implement what it is that you're learning. And that is what makes this so different. So the communication challenge, we're going to talk about a whole host of things during the next 5 days next week. So it starts on Monday. There's a live session on Monday. There's a live session on Friday. And then the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in between will be self-paced. So there's articles, there's videos, and then these live sessions that will help you do that. And the whole aim is to help you to, well, in my mind, to understand better, because listening is a big part of communication. And then on the second part of that is also to be understood better, because you are able to communicate clearer to clients, your spouse, friends, whoever is in your circle. So that's the communication challenge. It's just 5 days starting on Monday, so you can still get in if you haven't. Then the last one is also the Speaker and Influencer Program for 2022. The applications close this on the 31st of August, sorry, at the end of the month. We closed the applications. We have been flooded with applications, which I'm so happy about. A great split between men and women, and also just people from all walks of life, that are in the profession and who wants to learn public speaking, who wants to learn storytelling, who wants to learn how to communicate with people effectively, have joined this, and they may all be talking at the conference next year. So if that's something that sounds good, the program is sponsored. There's no cost involved. So the only thing is there's an application process, and we are going to go through an interview process in order to select all the participants. There's only place for 30. So if you are interested, head on over to propulsion.co.za/speaker, and you can find all the information there. Alrighty, then with that, it's time for the featured guests. And as I said earlier, I'm very excited to talk to them this morning. So without any further ado, let's bring them on. Good morning, ladies of the FBI. How are you this morning?
Morning. Good morning, Francois.
Yeah, awesome.
Good morning, everyone.
Welcome. So Nici and Lelané are well-known faces here on the show. Adele, this is your first time, so a very warm welcome to you. I'm so glad that you can join us. Seema was also invited, but unfortunately for us, fortunately for her, she is on leave. So unfortunately, she couldn't make this morning. Really excited. Thank you for being here. I look forward to getting into the conversation with you. And just to maybe sort of give an overview of what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking to Adele about women in the profession. Like what does that look like? What's happening? What trends are we seeing? And a few other things. Then I'll be talking to Nici a little bit about estate planning specifically for women. And then I'm going to talk to Lelané about the difference in financial planning for men and women. And then also we're going to get with all three of them into women in leadership. So really excited, a variety of topics we're going to talk about. So with that, Adele, so let me just do this quickly, and there you go. So yes, Adele, welcome. Really excited. Tell me, I've said on this show, I've said in some of my programs, talks that I've done, that if I look at the future of financial planning, I honestly believe that women is the future of this profession. And that can be taken up in quite a few different ways, I think. So I also sort of always try and explain what I mean with that. But in my mind, I feel, and from what I've noticed, is that women are just naturally built for being great financial planners because they can be great coaches. They have natural empathy mostly. They just bring a different dynamic to a conversation. But on the flip side of that is as well is this has got nothing to do with women replacing men. So meaning that, okay, so what are the men going? Are they becoming the administrators? No. This is about growing the profession and both bringing, because different clients wants to deal with different kinds of people and personalities. So my opening question to you based on that is, what are you seeing? Because you, I think one of your roles is head of membership at the FPI. You can correct me. So, you must have a lot of data to see what's happening. And I'd like us to talk a little bit about that.
Yes, thanks, Francois. So this week I read quite an interesting article in Personal Finance written by Llewellyn Paulser. And he made mention of the fact that there's 11,576 active FSPs registered with the FSCA. So that employs a lot of people. In fact, 25 million people. Of that, he calculated that 43% of those were women. Now, I'd like us just to have a look at where our members, professional members, come into that mix. So as we speak, we have 32% of our professional members being female. That has increased. And what we're seeing, quite interestingly, is that amount on average over the last 5 years has increased by about 100 females each year. So we are seeing that landscape change. Further to that, just some interesting little things about females in the profession. Strangely enough, we have 29 of those females that aren't in the country, but they remain members of the FPI. Our youngest female is 24 and our oldest being 60. I like that particularly because we're starting to see those younger members coming. Further to that, I'd just like to quickly mention some firsts for females in FPI and in planning. The first being our very, very first financial planner of the year back in 2001 was Debbie Netto. And our last planner of the year for 2020 was also a female, Hester van der Merwe. So again, I think if we look at the representation of females overall being 32%, I can actually see that playing out in the involvement with FPI. That's reflective in our committees, in our board. So yes, well done, females. Thank you, Francois.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because I also see it's interesting when you attend a FISA meeting, when we still did this in person, like I would go to a FISA meeting and there would be a lot of women there because it tends to a state administration. It seems like that's sort of where they what's the right word? I don't want to say this is not the right word.
They do well
attracted to that. I'm looking for the right word now, but English is escaping me. But anyway, so they are moving towards that side automatically, and there's a lot of them involved in that sense. But also, as we started going to more and more events, whether it was product providers or FPI events or anything, and even in my community, I can see how many women is involved. And you're 100% right. If I look at something like what we're doing with our small community, we have people that are young up to close, mid-60s, and they are bringing it, and they are so inspirational. And I think that's what I find from all of this is that, not only are women bringing a different dynamic to the planning and to the conversations but they bring a new energy. And this is so important. And it's great to see, it's interesting to always read these articles in something like Personal Finance or LinkedIn or wherever it's being published, and people give their stats and then you go but if you really start digging down and you just think, is this what I'm seeing in practice? I think that's when I get excited to say, well, but that is reflective of what is going on. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And is there any specific things that, sort of that, I don't want to say that the FBI specifically is doing, but what are we doing from encouraging women to get involved in financial planning and for opening doors for them? And what can we do? Maybe that's a better question. What can all of us do to open the door and to get them involved?
So there's a number of things, Francois. For obvious reasons, we try and attract from a student level to right through to going to schools with our My Money 123 program. We approach universities. We start at that level. And then also from a female perspective, we do have an MOU with Women in Finance. And Women in Finance, FPI are involved from a perspective of, Lelané regularly has a chat on that show. But we also supply previously disadvantaged members or females with the opportunity to attend an event, or simply students who are females that simply cannot afford to attend the event. So this is how we encourage females to enjoy financial planning and the environment. I think just generally getting involved in financial planning. So those are some of the things that we do. And I think it's working.
I want to ask you a very naughty question. Do you think women are better at money than men, or at finances? Just general feeling? Biased or not, doesn't matter.
Francois, I would like to say no. Women are more cautious, I believe. So I wouldn't say better, I would say cautious. Because I think typically a woman, and if that woman is a mother, manages, you get a budget, say, to manage your home for the month. So you cautious. That's my view.
That's a great answer. Like, I didn't think about it that way. So it's almost a thing of just that we are all different, the way that we deal with things.
Yes.
And yeah, so very important. Adele, like, what can we do? Like, and it's not, if I say we, I don't mean men. I mean, all of us that's already in the profession. I know there are things like Women in Finance that do. We're actually going to have a group of those ladies that are part of that as well on the show for the last episode for the month. But I know there's organizations like that. I think with Amanda John and them, they're doing Lean In or something. It's called Lean In Circle or something, like, where it's all about women and trying to sort of help them into the profession and support them and do all of that. But what can we, as an already, I also want to say, established financial planning professionals do to bring more women into the profession?
Francois, for me, I think it's about starting at the right level. So, and this is an ongoing conversation we've had, David in particular from the advocacy side. We need to attract women to a career in financial planning, and that's the important bit. So it's where and I think we've all experienced that. You in matric planning for varsity, what do you do and how do you do it? So there are typical career paths. I think it's where we get involved at that level. So again, engaging with students that are studying to go into financial planning and encouraging them. And I think creating that support for them, as we do with our student community, that's the important thing. So you have these people that are interested, and I think carry on with that support mechanism.
Yeah. I just quickly, Adele, before you and I end off, I just quickly want to bring this comment from Kobus back on the screen. He says, it's interesting to note that with MDRT, with 70,000 members from 70 countries, we have a split of 51% female to 49% men. And very interesting, he says the majority females are from the East. So not Benoni and Springs, like we mean like... Okay.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, and females became the majority in 2019. So thanks for that, for those stats, because we tend to have, like, I'm just thinking now, like, we tend to have these conversations around South Africa because that's where you start, right? When you're on the plane, the air hostess says, put on your own mask first and then help the person next to you. So you first need to fix what we need to do in our country or grow and that. But interesting to see globally, that's a massive stat.
Absolutely. It's very interesting, and thank you for that, Kobus.
Cool stuff. Adele, thank you. I'll bring you on back later. Let's head on over to Nici and hear what I can ask her, and I'll see you back soon. Thanks. All right, so with that, Nici, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Dankie.
So with you, I want to talk a little bit about estate planning for women and how it's different and all of that. And I know you have very strong views around a lot of things. I think some of it we'll get into when we also, speak about women in leadership, etc. But standing still with, you think about financial advisors and planners working with clients, we often see, like in practice, they will work with a husband, but they don't work with the spouse. The spouse falls in with whatever they need, is being decided, or she has her own financial advisor or financial planner. What do you think it should be?
Yeah,
Is there should be?
Yes, there's definitely a should be, and I think a lot of the issues that we're experiencing now are obviously the legacy of the man being in charge of the finances. Now, over the years, that has obviously changed, where women are also involved in finances. They earn their own salaries, they run businesses, they are successful. But and I must disclaimer, I come from the Free State. I practiced there for 13 years. So especially in the rural areas, we see more of that mindset still of the man is in charge of the finances. So the financial advisor tends to talk to them. Now, where the disconnect happens is that women live on average 7 years longer than this is stats that from Stats SA in South Africa over the law that they gathered over the last 8 to 10 years. So the chances that the woman is going to deal with the estate after the husband passes away, or that she will have to sort out the finances after that and take care of the kids and take care of the family, is a very real possibility. So if the financial advisors, and that is also important, why it's important for women to become the advisor or the planner, because women tend to approach this from a different angle. And we also find that women like to talk to women about these things because there's just a different, as you said, there's a different approach. So I think from that perspective is extremely important that you do the estate planning and the financial planning that you do with your clients with both, so that the women can also be empowered to, should something happen, know exactly what needs to be done, what she needs to look after, what position she will be in, because I don't think there's anything that scares someone more after someone has passed away than the next steps. And I mean, that is where your financial advisor comes in, because you're one of the first people they phone if something does happen, because what do I need to do? Do I need to get the death certificate? Do I need to cancel the Mnet, the DSTV? Do I need to stop the bank accounts? What do I need to do? And that is the type of thing that you can prepare someone for. And if you made sure that everything was in place, I mean, it could just make the lives of everyone left behind in a very difficult time so much easier.
And Nici, what I've seen a lot in practice as well is, you can have these conversations and prepare and all of it, but the day that death happens, that's the only time you know how the spouse is going to react. And it's not always like whether it's the wife or the husband. Husbands are always like, oh, it's just like a tough and everything's good. And you know what, I'll be okay. And then their wife passes away and they are in shambles. And then the same with women. I mean, I've worked with people that have been in the industry that 8-9 years later is still not over it, is still battling, is still suffering with managing what they need to do. And they were in practice, like they worked together in the same practice. So there's also a big thing about that, is that you never really know how that surviving spouse or that wife is going to react the day that her husband dies. And the best we can do, I guess, yes, is prepare them. But we also need to understand it won't be just a case of, oh, but I told you. And this is what we discussed. And we never know what that's going to be.
Yes. And you made the comment earlier about the FISA meetings and women being almost drawn to the estate administration process. And I think it's just the nature of women in that industry, because your estate administrators and your people that deal with deceased estates, don't just deal with the administration, you actually deal with the people, and in the most difficult time of their lives. And I think that is why a little bit of a softer touch might absolutely be the best thing in that space. And also, more women tend to be more empathetic. So that, I think, that is why your best estate administrators, estate lawyers, and those type of people are women. And it is so important to guide your client through that process. I mean, just if we look at the state of our master's offices in the country, and how long they take just to get an executor's letter issued, just to get an estate finalized. And if your planning wasn't done right and there's issues, it can take even longer. If the bank account was maybe shared and that wasn't sorted out before the death of the spouse, that can be an enormous issue when a bank account gets frozen. When a policy takes very long to pay out and everything is stuck in an estate. So those little practical things that we all as financial advisors know how to deal with, those type of things need to be in place. And then another interesting stat, and I saw this when I was in practice, but I actually went and researched whether I was dreaming it up or not, is that women tend to talk about death easier than men. And there's actually been studies done, not in financial planning. The specific one that I found is actually an Icelandic study that dealt with palliative care, where they said that, where they found that women at a 30% of men that would talk about death to 80% of women that would talk about death instinctively. So women tend to be better at talking about death earlier and wanting to put things in place and making sure that it's right. And in many relationships, women can also be a little bit more organized than men. So it makes sense for them to sort of take charge of this whole financial planning and getting everything right beforehand. And then it doesn't matter who passes away first, because if your things are in order and someone knows what to do, it will make that transition and during that difficult time easier for them.
I think those are amazing tips. And that was sort of my last question is like, what would be the one thing probably that you would say if you only focus on this with your clients' wives or with your female clients, what would that top thing be?
From a pure estate planning perspective,
yes,
make sure that your will is in order and keep it in order, because things change at the drop of a hat. So always keep that top of mind, and then make sure that you've got a file, or my dad has got a little blue suitcase and he always says if something happens, there's a little. So make sure that all your documentation and everything everyone needs is somewhere. And I'm talking, there are lots of resources on the internet that can help you put something like that together. But make sure your clients know that if you have all of that information at the time of death, when you have to start putting all the paperwork in order to get the estate registered and all those things, it's going to make your lives so much easier than having to go through someone's study, find little bits of pieces of paper looking for assets, all those type of things. So keep it all together in one place. Make sure that both spouses know where it is, and make someone responsible for updating that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, you want to say something else?
No, I'm fine.
No, that's, yeah. Sorry, there's a million things going through my mind as you're talking, because I think you touch on so many important aspects from that. So the one thing that I did want to share is, as you were talking about, like these resources on the internet, etc., where you can find a lot of things that you can do. But Henry Lagrange and his team recently published on his personal LinkedIn profile, I think they made available a link to an online page that they created with everything that goes with a death claim, and everything that's needed, the whole process and all of that. And they made that available for free to anybody. So unfortunately, I don't have the link with me, but it's maybe something I put in the description afterwards, and also something that you can go and just search for on LinkedIn. Then it's Henry Lagrange. So you can go and have a look and see that's extremely valuable as well. Nici, thank you so much. I'll talk to you again a little bit later.
Pleasure.
Great stuff. All right. So with that, Mrs. Lelané Bezuidenhout.
Good morning, Mr. Detoire. How are you?
Welcome. I'm very well, thank you. Welcome. It's great to be able to talk to you. I think last year you were on the 10th of August, if my memory doesn't leave me at the moment. But that was also our first panel discussion. It was, I think it was yourself and Lelané and Carol Lindsay and Mariette.
Oh, was Mariette?
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. That was on my show. Yeah.
That was that one.
So it's been a year, almost to the day, because today is Friday the 13th. We won't say it out loud. But, yeah.
Please, no. I remember awesome that. Thank you very much. It feels like 9 years ago, but it was last year.
Yes. Lelané, let's jump right into it. So Nici has spoken a lot about estate planning specifically, but then if we look at the broader financial planning landscape, what we do in terms of financial planning and financial coaching and all these things that we do for clients, like where are the nuances between men and women? Where are the differences, and what is it that we really need to look out for?
Well, I think the first question, Francois, is there really a difference between how females work with money and from a financial planning point of view? And the answer is simply yes, there is a difference. Now, initially, when I started looking and investigating into this topic, I thought, no, man, there can't be a difference, but there actually is a difference. Now, Adele, spot on with your answer. It's not that we are better with money and that males are worse with money. Males sometimes live for today, females maybe a little bit more for the long term, and we are cautious by nature. And the one example that I will take is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dr. James Dobson's books. Now, I'm quite a bookworm, for better discussion, and that's one of the books that I read when I was quite young in terms of how to raise boys. So why would I read that book? Well, God blessed me with two wonderful boys, Piri and Bastian. And how to raise boys. In that book, I remember I laughed out from my tummy when Dr. James says the difference between males and females is a little boy would see a river that side and he's going to run and he wants to jump over it. So now what he does is he runs and he jumps over it and he falls and he breaks his nose. He gets up, he fixes his nose a little bit, he reverses and he runs again. But now he falls and his arm is a little bit gebreek. He fixes it, he goes and he runs again. Now his little sister is standing next to the river watching this thing and she goes like, I'm going to try. She tries and the first time she jumps, she falls and she falls her freckles off her face. She stops and she says, you know what? There's no ways on planet Earth I'm going to do that again until I'm older, until I'm stronger, until I can actually jump over the river. She then turns around and she doesn't try that again. And that is the difference from a very young age between male and females. And that is why females are a lot more cautious when it comes to investment decisions. Now, if we are aggressively conservative, that's not good. So yes, we are more cautious. And that is why females do need a financial planner to help them. And I just want to share something that happened last week. So I was on RSG for literally 5 minutes where we spoke around female fitness because it was National Savings Month, but also leading into Women's Month. And just 5 minutes, and lo and behold, there was a consumer, and this is very important for everybody online to understand. Consumers are on LinkedIn. So one of the consumers contacted me via LinkedIn, and she's a director at a company, and she said to me, Lelané, thank you so much for your show. It was God sent, but you know what? I'm at the point to retire, and I need an Afrikaans-speaking female CFP professionals in Randburg. So what I did, and this is a shout out to everybody who's professional members of FPI, what I did is I went to www.letsplan.co.za, which is a fantastic search tool. I clicked in Randburg and I looked at all the names. I looked at which names looked Afrikaans and I read the bio. So this is very important for you as a member to make sure that your bio is always updated. I phoned the lady, and she was Afrikaans speaking. Obviously, I first checked whether she was in good standing. And then I said to her, I have this consumer, a female. Can you please help her? So that's one of the things. So females are more conservative when it comes to investment decisions. So it means we're not reckless. We don't really play with money. And Adele, again, spot on, we are cautious. Now, Nici mentioned that females live longer. Yes, we do. And especially now after COVID, the mortality rate for men has actually gone down even further. So it's important that females need to understand how to work with money, because now, Nici, not just from an estate planning point of view, now all of a sudden you need to work with your money. And I just want to brag a bit, Nici, here's my file. After my hospital scare, everybody in my household knows where it is. If there was more time, I would have shared the index. But so then looking at females living longer, from a retirement planning point of view, you need to save more. The last thing you want, your children is not your retirement plan. And I think we need to get that. I mean, I remember growing up, and I don't mind sharing this with the community, my granny lived with us, you know, and it is difficult. So you need to share, you need to save for retirement so that you don't end up living with your children, that you can look after yourself. Yes, your children will look after you from an emotional point of view, but make sure that you don't plan on your children being your retirement plan. So last thing that I'll quickly touch on, there's a lot more that I actually wanted to mention, but for the sake of time, the last thing that I wanted to mention, a sad part is that females are still earning less than males. So you would have a male that was maybe in the previous position, and then a female is appointed, and lo and behold, the company will pay her less. Why is that? Well, because we are conservative. We are just too thankful to say, oh, fantastic cost to company. Thank you very much. I'm happy. We don't like to really, and I'm not speaking for all the females, but overall, females are still being paid between 20 to 30% less than males. So my advice to especially the young ones coming in, and any female, is if you do apply for a new position, make sure that you've done your research around what is the average. You get the entry, the medium, and the high level salary pay grade. Know where you slot in, and be realistic with your own experience and knowledge, and understand where you slot in before you go into an interview. Know thy worth. Do your homework. So that's just high level. Francha, as you know, I can talk 900 dead horses alive, but I will stop now.
No, Lelané, those are all so insightful, and you know, it really makes one think. You know, because I think and I'm making an assumption that we tend to approach our client bases all with the same process, the same conversations, the same methods, like, you know, doing the same thing, saying the same thing. But we should actually start seeing, like, how can we do this differently, you know, and understand what the differences are. So I think the points that you raised are extremely valuable, and they are, like, I would like to disagree with you because that makes for interesting shows. Well, that makes for interesting shows, but I can't find anything to disagree with you. So, so good stuff. All right, so I'm going to bring back Adele and Nici, and let's move on over to this view. And I want to talk a little bit about women in leadership as well, because you touched on this now. You know, women are, like, maybe they're appointing a female in the place of a male. So yes, we have these, you know, pay disparities and so forth. But, you know, let's look at women in leadership. You know, is there a move where we see more women in leadership, like we see more members of the FBI being female, more members in the profession being female? Are we seeing this in leadership as well? So I guess, Lelané, let's start with you on that. And, you know, I mean, you are the first CEO of the Financial Planning Institute. And I can tell you, like, I will say this a million times over, the change, like, could be felt in the air when you, and I've told you this before, like, when I walk into that building, and I haven't been there now for a long time, but when I walk into that building, it's a different vibe, it's a different energy, it's a different, I don't know, aura, atmosphere, name it what you want. But things changed dramatically, you know, from the time that you took over. And I really want to commend you for that. But what has your experience been like taking over as the first woman of the FBI to be a CEO?
Thank you very much. Yes, it's indeed the first female CEO of the Financial Planning Institute, but also the first certified financial planner. So it helps understand the members' needs a bit better. But Francha, I want to publicly state that I would not have been able to do what we did at FBI because there's no I. There's never been I, it's always we. We have a very strong management team at the FBI, standing together, and that includes male, females, across all races and across all ages. And I think we need to understand that's what diversity is as well. It is not just race, it's male, it's female, it is across the various ages that we have. So we have younger management people on our team, and then we have the older, more wiser, grey individuals on our management team. So has it been a challenge in the beginning? Yes, it has been a challenge. because you are as a female coming in, and the way that you do things are a little bit different. I don't believe in coming in as a dictator or that type of personality. My personality has always been engage, observe, and bring the team together. Because as I took over CEO, one of my very first statements, and it still is my statement, I actually said that to Unate Kamlana yesterday, the new FSCA commissioner. I said to him, one of the statements that I still believe in to today is where there's unity, a blessing is commanded. And to today, I stand on that. Pull the team together, don't work in isolation, because lone rangers don't make it in the business of leadership.
True, absolutely true. Adele, you are the head of membership and, if I'm not mistaken, of the learning center for the FBI as well. Please excuse me if I get some of the terminology wrong. But I mean, you've been leading that space. You and I have been working together long before Lelané and I got to work together. So I've known you for longer. And what is your experience with regards to being in that leadership role? And then also, where do you think we need to go?
Thanks for that, Francois. So from my perspective, I personally think it's about balance. And it's for everybody, not only females. You need to balance what you do and how you do it. So for obvious reasons, leading is not a dictatorship. As Lelané rightfully pointed out, leading is engaging your team, pulling together and doing things together. I'd also just like to add, based on Lelané's experience, for me, working for a female in this space has been great. There is a soft touch. And I mentioned this to Lelané a while ago. She is a leader of note. She is soft on people, but hard on targets. If you've agreed to do something, that's it. You must do what you're committed to. And from that perspective, I think that as a female and as leading departments, etc., it's like anything else. And very much to Lelané's point, it's pulling your team together. You can't do it on your own. It's as simple as that.
Amazing
Thank
stuff.
you, Francois.
Thanks, Adele. Nici, you are the head of certification, right? Have I got that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah. So you have a very important job. You have to be hard on your members, making sure we stay in line so that when Lelané goes and check whether somebody's in good standing, that is in fact the case. So, but you're quite new to the FBI, Nici. I mean, I would assume that you've worked alongside the FBI. You've been a member of the FBI before. For many years, you say you were in practice, but now you work for the FBI, and you've been there for, what, a year already, or a little bit longer, maybe?
Yeah, almost a year. Almost a year now.
Time flies, eh? So what has your experience been?
Yes, I obviously came from a very big corporate that I worked for in a smaller office, but a big corporate. So I was a member of the FBI since I became a CFP professional, I think in 2009. So I've had a long history. Working at the FBI has been really eye-opening. And the comment you made earlier about women in leadership, and is it changing? It is definitely changing. Not just in the FBI or in the financial planning, in the advisors that we're seeing, but also in the entire industry. If I look at our educational providers, most of the people in charge of those departments are women. If I look at the other professional bodies we work with, most of the people in charge there are women. And so you see it everywhere, but I'm going to make a comment that I think there can be more change in the corporates. I think in the bigger financial advice industry, still there is a lot of work to do. I think women are smart. Women tend to do better in education. They tend to get better marks. We see that all the time in our PCE exams. So women needs to be taken more seriously. Where there's still, in certain instances, that idea of you stay in your corner and don't have an opinion. And I really coming from a corporate, seeing what happens in some of the other places. I still think that happens too much. And I think if our financial advisors and financial planners that want to make a difference need to focus that doesn't keep happening, and that they give women the correct opportunities, because if you leave us and give us some space, we can fly.
Yeah. What a way to end off. I want to sort of add to that, you know, I've heard so many stories. So often women get the opportunity to fulfill a position or to move into a certain role, but they don't get support. They get, you know, it's just a title, basically. And that for me is extremely sad, because I think we're missing out on the opportunity to do more together. This is not, again, I want to say it again, it's not about Nici, you replacing me in what I do. I still do what I do in the way I do it. You can't do it like I do it. And then exactly the same, I can't do things the way you can do it. But imagine what we can do if we both do it, right? And just have that opportunity and that freedom and that space to fulfill your vision and your way of doing things, and just be able to go out there and make that difference that you can. And I think that will amplify. It's almost like, I'm thinking now of something like a mastermind. The definition of that is, they say where you know, it's one person, you have one way of thinking, two people come together, there's actually a third mind that forms, and that's called the mastermind. And that's where that whole thing comes from. So, you know, it's just a very interesting, like, what we can do together. And who said, I think Lelané, I don't know if you said, somebody said that, you know what, you can't, like the Lone Ranger, was it you, Lelané?
Yeah,
like, doesn't get anywhere, you know. But it's also not about a man and a woman. It is about, like, what do we bring to the table and how do we use them? So thank you so much. Ladies, thank you so much. We've run out of time. I'm going to cry. No, not really. I will hold my emotions today. But anyway, thank you so much. It was absolutely phenomenal. I love talking to each and every one of you. So thank you so much. Any last, like, maybe 10 words in closing, Lelané?
Very good book. God is my CEO. It's really a good book. I'll highlight just one or two things in here. Difference is achieve results. You know, that is the unwritten business rules. But then the principle based is serve a purpose. What can I get? But change to how can I give? Maybe short-term gain, long-term legacy. A slave to the urgent, different principles, freedom of choice. So God is my CEO. It's a fantastic book. The author is Larry Julian. Another good one, Emotional Intelligence, the second version. It's all about self-awareness. If we lack self-awareness, we are in trouble. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Nici?
Yes, I think the most important thing is that we take our passion that we've all got for financial planning and for this industry. Take the passion that in my space specifically for education and empowering women through education, and put some concrete plans in place to achieve what we want to achieve. We've got at the FBI some plans and some projects with bursaries coming through. And just because of the stats, most of the recipients of those bursaries will be young Black females, because they are just the best candidates that we could find. So that is the plans going forward. So some concrete ideas, make a difference, and we'll reap the rewards in the future.
Absolutely. Adele?
Yeah, my parting word is just respect people. Respect people for their skills, knowledge, their abilities, and what they can bring to the table. I think if we can get that right, we'll go a long way, Francois.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. I think it's been a fantastic show. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. Next week, I have 3 new guests. We will announce them on Monday, but also going to be an insightful conversation next week with another panel of women guests here on Propulsion Live. All right, with that, have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for being here. Please share the video, tell other people about it, and get more people to come and watch the show. That'll be amazing. All right. Thank you, ladies. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, bye.